Good morning, folks. Bobby C. checking in with Redemption Community Biker Church with your morning Kickstart. And today I'd like to share with you some advice that was given to me about 2010, 2012 time period. And at that time, I was living in Afghanistan, doing some work with the government. And during my spare time, I was writing a book called Battle for Bakuba, Killing Our Way Out. And when I was done my initial manuscript, it was 250,000 words. I sent it to the editor. The editor contacted me back and said, hey, this is a fantastic story, but we're going to have to kill some of your darlings. And I said, well, that's awesome. What do you mean by killing some of my darlings? And he said, look, as writers, we tend to bring in things into the storyline at the time seem important, but in fact, it does nothing to move the main theme of the story forward. In fact, it does the complete opposite, and it bogs things down, it clutters it, and confuses the reader. So we did the editing process all the way down to about 145,000 words and went to print in 2012. And all these years later, I still use that analogy of killing my darlings in my storyline. And it's like, I do my own internal editorial review, and I sit there and I say, what am I bringing into my story that's not helping the overarching story that God has laid out for me? And I have to go through and I have to do my editing process, right? And I sit here and I think about some scripture that coincides with that editorial process. In Hebrews 12:1, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. And, that's basically telling you, hey, take away all of the things that are distracting from the storyline that God has set out for you. What is cluttering your storyline? What is bogging it down? What is distracting it? And the thing that I want to share with you is do your own editorial review in your life's story, because look, God has an amazing story planned out for you. But if we don't sit there and do what Hebrews 12 is telling us, where it says, lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, it's going to bog things down. It's going to clutter, and you're not going to realize the story that God has for you. So with that said, have a great day. I hope to see you at church on Saturday. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share. Love y'all. Bye.